Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello.
This week, in honor of the second Friday the 13th in so many weeks, we're doing Friday the 13th, the final chapter. It's a classic.
But before we get started on that, did you watch The Irishman? The latest Martin Scorsese fiasco?
I have it saved on my Netflix queue, but I have not watched it yet. What is your issue?
God, it was so long and boring. And the CGI is they're trying to use to make 90-year-old men look like they're in their 30s was very distracting. It was all very kind of Sin City, weird. Clearly, am I watching a video game? Am I watching a movie?
Yeah, the technology is just not at that level yet, evidently. So,
and I love Martin Scorsese. I'll watch most of his drivel, and but I was like, I can't do it. It took me 3 sittings, and I was like, I don't even care. It's so boring. It's so rambling. So what problem is people get to the certain status, and then then they're editing themselves, and then it's
I see. Oh. So take a hard pass on the Irishman. Is that what you're trying to say?
Maybe I'm just in a mood because I didn't think Knives Out was spectacular either. I mean, it was all right. They're not inventing new stuff. It's Agatha Christie. I mean, whatever.
You're just ruining the entire holiday season.
What else did you want to know?
Exactly.
Mr. Rogers is a pedo. Is that the next thing I'm going to start? No, Mr. Rogers is a saint. He could never
don't drag him down. How dare you?
Poor Mr. Rogers.
Not even here
for saying that.
Oh, sweet Jesus. This is not the Bizarro holiday podcast, however. This is the podcast that wouldn't die. So go to our page on Facebook at the podcast that wouldn't die. Go to our page on Twitter at tpodcast, TWDie. Like us, share, subscribe. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc. And Aaron, you also, as Yul Brynner often says, etc., etc., etc. You are also on
the Twitter.
Something. You're on the Twitter.
I'm on the Twitter. I am the Cult of Aaron. And I also have a little thing called an email account where I am also the Cult of Aaron at Gmail.
Oh, so you want emails from people on your personal email account? Interesting.
That is not my personal. That is my professional email account.
Interesting, because the podcast that wouldn't die also has an email account. Oh
shoot! Yeah, you're right.
It is
what it is. Oh yeah,
it is.
I forgot about that.
It's the podcast that wouldn't die at gmail.com.
Oh, it sounds like it's dying all right.
Wah, 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 wah. It's a sad situation, let me tell you.
So sad. So sad.
Let's jump right in. Give us your 5-minute description of the plot for Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Let me just put this out here. I will watch The Irishman 5 times in a row with no pee breaks rather than watch Friday the 13th, the final rape. Because that's how you feel after you've been forced to watch this. And pay for it, by the by.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is a damn classic.
I need a shower after this. It's so terrible.
Oh, how dare you.
Perhaps the most... now, I haven't seen all 35 of the Friday the 13th. I believe I stopped after the first one.
Yeah, I have seen them all. In fact, I own chapters 1 through 9 on my Vudu account. So there you have it.
Oh, there's obviously some voodoo going on to cause you to do that.
The voodoo that you do. So will you tell us what the plot is about?
The plot is it takes place, I don't know, the next day after the last one. So, Jason's dead again, except he's not. And then he's free. I think he's like 75 at this point. He's running around, killing whoever. And we got you got your Corey Feldman. You got your Crispin Glover, who was fairly attractive back in the day. I was quite impressed. I might go run off and go live with him in his Czech castle that he lives in. I could be the new Miss Crispin
Glover.
Mrs. Crispin. Anyway, it's the same old nonsense, only with much more nudity. It's quite shocking. Compare this to the original one, where there was a couple of A cups and that was it. This one, it is just naked for naked's sake.
Yeah. Why do you think I chose it? For God's sakes!
Oh my God! Because Corey Feldman is in it. I assume that's why you chose it.
That's definitely part of it. One thing that's interesting that I liked about this
I haven't finished my synopsis.
Well, wrap it up, honey.
Jason is loose.
Yep.
He kills a bunch of teenagers and some adults, and again he is foiled. The end.
You're right. We needed the full synopsis of this bad boy. They started out. What I really enjoyed is they start off with a montage that kind of brings you up to date on what's occurred up to this point.
In case you just wanted to jump into the series at number 4 and had no idea what was going on in the other 3 movies, there's this part of the 13th I've been meaning to attack, so I'm just going to hop in now.
Well, I compare it to like James Bond movies, right? If you just jump in with Roger Moore, you may not even know there was a Sean Connery.
I'm sorry. Did I bump my head, or do all 007s all start with a montage of the previous 95?
It's very important that they do that. One thing that's interesting is the fact that episodes 2, 3, and 4 all take place back to back. Okay? Meaning, like, episode 2, Jason is killed. Episode 3 starts off, he gets up from the ground where he was killed and immediately continues the killing spree.
Yeah.
Same thing with this one. They start off with his body being collected at the site of the last massacre. And that night, he's climbing out of the cooler at the morgue, getting right back to it. Right back to business.
And what's with his fingernails? Why does he have these long black fingernails? Because apparently the day before, he did not.
Okay, this is a good question. Much like James Bond, they change the actor every few movies. In this movie, this is literally the fourth actor to play Jason in 4 movies. So there you go. It's a different actor. They just found an old homeless man with long, crazy nails to play him this time, evidently.
They did not. But he was, by far, the oldest one they've ever had. What was it? He was like 58 or something.
That's correct. We'll talk more about that in the behind the scenes. Okay? All the behind the scenes things. There's really but one thing I will say, there's really no through line that connects these movies. There's an entirely different, like, writing, directing staff. Like I said, Jason is played by different actors. Actually, I said 4. There are actually 5 different actors who played Jason in the first 4 movies, shockingly enough. And we'll talk about that more.
Because one was murdered or took his own life because he knew his career was over.
Well, exactly, in mid-film. No, what was happening is, by the 3rd movie, they realized we should just have a stuntman play him the entire time. Who cares? He doesn't have any lines. All he does is get hit in the head and chase people around. So just have a stuntman do it. In the 2nd movie, they had a stuntman who played him 90% of the time. It's only until the grand reveal at the end of chapter 2 that they show his face. So they actually had an actor play that part. So the actor plays Jason for like 10 minutes of the movie, like the thrilling conclusion, whereas a stuntman
with an acceptable face. or they just didn't want to pay him?
No, they hired. This is neither here nor there. We could save this for that
we're
podcast.
deep diving.
But they hired
the neither here nor there podcast. Is that the next one we're starting?
That's the next one, exactly. They hired the actor who at the time claimed to have some stunt background, but once he got rearing to go, he clearly did not. So they brought in a stunt man to do all the stunts, which is basically 90% of the movie. Like, he was the guy walking through the forest through the entire movie, chasing people through the entire movie. But they still had that actor. So he was basically used as, like, the face. when they pull off, they didn't have a hockey mask. See, this is deep diving. They did not have a hockey mask in the second movie. So he pulls off his burlap sack.
What brought about the hockey mask? That's what I don't understand.
Okay, we're hitting all the bases. Here's how it starts. Obviously, we know in the first movie, spoiler alert, it's Pamela Voorhees, the mom, who's killing everybody. But there's the reveal of little crazy baby Jason jumping out of the pond and attacking
He's too young to play hockey.
So, okay, he didn't wear a mask in that one. He was just an old deformed mutant. In the second movie, and if you watch that montage, they have the blonde dude sitting around the fire telling the urban legend of Jason. That's basically what we know. That Jason really didn't die drowned in that water, 30 years ago, whatever it was. He was actually survived and was living in the forest. So in the second movie,
all right,
he's now
raising my hand. I'm raising my hand.
Please.
So in 4 days, he went from being 7 to 58.
No, the difference between the first movie and the second movie is 5 years.
Okay, so he went from. Let's try that again.
Yes,
he went from 11 to 58 in 4 days.
Well, the stunt man,
5 years and 3 days.
The stunt man in the fourth movie was 58. I'm not sure Jason was supposed to be 58, but okay. So
literally, he's 3 years older than his mother by you get to the fourth movie.
That's correct. But what's interesting, so he was now a full-grown man living in the woods, attacking people who went back to Camp Crystal Lake. Because in the second one, they're trying to open the camp again. But now Jason's an adult now, and he handles his own business.
Where's he getting his shoes and his clothing?
Off people's clotheslines. They didn't go into this.
Why
isn't he
nude? Why isn't he nude?
I can't answer that. But needless to say, he did not have a hockey mask in the second movie. He wore like basically a burlap sack over his head, reminiscent of the Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was a 70s slasher flick.
I thought he was like the Scarecrow or the Dr. Sin, alias the Scarecrow from Disney.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. But so at the end of the movie, they pull off the burlap sack, and you see this hillbilly-looking dude with a beard and long, crazy hair. Okay?
That makes more sense.
Okay, so then he gets killed at the end of...
He comes back with alopecia?
Basically. So he gets chopped. He chopped with a machete at the end of the second movie. So then smash cut. Now it's the beginning of the third movie. He gets up and he attacks a couple and starts attacking people on vacation at their winter home by the lake, basically. But now, no longer has a long, crazy beard or long, crazy hair. He's now like bald as a cue ball.
And these movies take place one after the other. It's the next day.
The next day. And
I'm seeing a continuity issue here.
There's a big continuity issue. In the second movie, he was basically normal human sized. Okay? He was just kind of a normal dude. But because they hired a different actor for the third one, the actor they hired in the third one was like 6'5". 6'5". They put him in a bald wig. And now he's literally a superhuman brute, where he's just crushing people with his bare hands.
Oh yeah, there was some of that in this movie. I was like, damn.
Yes, the third movie kind of set the tone for the Jason that we know. There was a character in the third movie named Shelley who was kind of a prankster. So he would like do a lot of faking his own death stuff for laughs because he was kind of a socially awkward individual.
Yeah, everybody loves the friend who fakes their own death.
Yes. So you'd open up the cupboard and he'd be there like with his throat slashed going, "Oh, I'm dying." And they'd get pissed off. Shelley, they'd do one of those moves.
I'm like, Shelley, you son of a bitch.
Shelley short for Sheldon, obviously, to make it even more offensive. One point, he's wearing a hockey mask and jumps out of the bushes with like a spear gun to scare, the cute girls. They get pissed off at him and say, "Shelley, just be a normal person, and people would like you more," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sheldon kind of sadly slinks off. And then Jason pops out of the bushes, kills him for real. But of course, he's the boy who cried wolf, so no one believes it.
Right.
And then when Jason comes out wearing the hockey mask, they're like, "Shelley, are you up to your old tricks?" And then he promptly kills them.
We told you that girls won't sleep with you if you keep trying to murder them.
Basically. So that now you've got 6'5" superhuman Jason with the hockey mask on. So that's where we're at right now. And that carried us through the rest of the movies, basically. So there you go.
I've completely lost interest. Where did the hockey mask come from? It was just out in the woods?
No, Shelley
brought it with him?
He literally had a bag of tricks.
He was the unknown comic who just had the bag of tricks. This is the Gong Show 1970s. He's a prop comic.
He was basically Carrot Top, is what I'm trying to tell you. He pulled his steamer trunk full of props out to do his stuff, and Jason just basically killed him.
Yes. The googly eyes, the red nose. Yes, fantastic.
That's correct.
Oh, my God.
Yes. So, like we said, this movie starts off with Jason took a hatchet to the forehead and hung from a rope. So he was dead, quote unquote. The paramedics arrive. They're grabbing, zipping up all the dead bodies. And I guess they check his vitals and he's apparently dead. Who's to say? They say he's dead. They put him in the back of the ambulance, drop him off at the morgue. The creepy mortician who's waiting there, he's not a mortician. What is he? Medical examiner? I don't know what he is.
All right, we got to talk about a couple of these people. You're getting ahead. Do you want me to just jump in while it's appropriate for the story?
We can do it however you want. I mean, I feel like we're just telling the story. Do you want to jump ahead to Crispin Glover or something?
I always want to jump ahead to Crispin Glover.
I don't blame you.
There's the ambulance driver at the beginning.
Yes.
Anthony Ponzi, who delivers, of course, one of the best lines in the story. He's here to pick up the dead Jason. He says, "Is this the guy that's been leaving all the wet stuff?" I was like, "Oh, sweet Jesus." But we have two people that also appeared in Seinfeld. This was one. Enzo the barber from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So, do you have something to say about him?
Well, no, he delivered another wacky line where he pulls up in his ambulance and he's just like, "Where's the emergency?" And they're like, "Oh, everybody's already dead." And he's just like, "Oh, I thought this was an emergency." It's like, well, I mean, granted, you're not going to revive them, but a pile of dead bodies,
some might
say it's an emergency.
Seems urgent. Is there a medical examiner here somewhere?
If only. So go ahead.
So now you're talking about the sexy nurse and the creepy orderly.
Right. Is he an orderly or is he a medical examiner? Axel?
We don't know. Axel, right. I wrote down Axel the horny orderly is what I wrote down.
Yes. Go ahead. What do you know him from?
From Seinfeld, Rabbi Glickman.
He was kindly Rabbi Glickman, but actually, about this time, he was in the Police Academy movies.
Yeah, that was not my jam.
He was Fackler, the clumsy police rookie in Police Academy 1, 2, 3, and I believe like 5 or 6.
Why was there never Police Academy versus Jason? Because there seems like there's 900 of each.
There should have been. And Axel is highly inappropriate. Because at one point he says there's a pretty girl in there. One of the corpses you guys just brought in. It's like, yeah, I used to be, says the Enzo the barber. And he's like, she still is. All you got to do is take off your pants. And they're like, okay, enough. So hinting at a necrophile interest at this point.
Oh, yeah. It's all good Porky's humor.
Good Porky's humor. So he's in there hitting on the nurse, the night nurse, while he's watching Aerobicize. He's watching Aerobicize on the TV.
That was a real thing. Horny
real TV
used
shows.
To watch that. Real TV shows. Just shaking your A.
Good times.
But I swear, while I was watching this, it was like I recognized him from something else. But I looked at his filmography and I couldn't see it.
You got to see Police Academy. If you haven't seen, he was big. He was big in Police Academy. That's all I'm going to say.
I saw was it the smoking gun, the smell of beer.
What? What are you talking?
Gun, the Smoking Gun series.
You mean the Naked Gun series?
Naked Gun.
What are you even? Put down the pipe. What are you talking about?
Well, it's practically Police Academy.
It is clearly. So Axel and the night nurse literally, first of all, she's like, "I hate you, get away from me," and then 5 seconds later, they're making out.
Yeah,
right. Literally on top of the corpse of the mass murderer Jason Voorhees.
Not as good as our previous movie. What is it? You're Next, where they're trying to make out on top of dead grandma,
on top of the dead mother. Basically, right? Oh, sweet Lord. So she gets pissed off and says, put Jason in the cooler. I'm going to go, I don't know, make a mess with the insulin.
I'm not going to have sex with this ice-cold metal gurney, until you put the corpse away so we can use the weird trolley for our bed. Blah.
Blah. Blah. Needless to say, Jason pops up, evidently not quite as dead as they said, and kills Axel with a bone saw and takes a scalpel to poor night nurse Morgan. So, adios, muchacho. Smash cut to, we've got a bunch of teenagers who are in their late 20s.
Just being naked. Because I know, when I was in college and high school, I couldn't wait to just be naked in front of all my friends.
There's a lot of spontaneous nudity. Non-stop spontaneous nudity. So in the forest, you've got Corey Feldman, who lives with his divorcee mother and his older sister. Corey Feldman is Tommy Jarvis, and he has... Basically, what is he? He makes masks, like Halloween masks or horror masks or something.
Whatever. It really ended up not meaning anything at all.
Well, I guess it was meant to be kind of an homage to Tom Savini.
So this is like a life story of Tom Savini?
It is literally an autobiography of Savini. Savini, of course, did the special effects for the first movie, came back to the fourth movie, because, again, this was supposed to be the final chapter.
Oh.
So he said, since I helped create this monster, I'm going to be there to put an end to it, evidently, was the idea. And then, of course, like I said, the horny teenagers are driving into their rented cabin. You've got Samantha, who you might remember, she was in Weird Science. You've got...
the blonde girl?
No.
Dark-haired girl?
The dark-haired girl was the dark-haired girl from Weird Science. You've got Peter Barton. Peter Barton plays Doug. He was, at the time, was famous for being on The Powers of Matthew Starr, if you remember that show.
Let me tell you this.
Lay it on me.
I kept thinking Peter Barton. That name sound familiar. And I never watched this nonsense show. But I deep dive Google Images, and he was in every Tiger Beat and Teen Beat magazine in the late 70s, early 80s. I don't know what he was famous for. There were a lot of those guys. They were pressing.
Right.
But he had the feathered hair, and he was all right. He was 70s all right.
He was a handsome devil. He wound up being in Young and the Restless for a couple seasons in the late 80s.
Yeah,
as well.
So did Enzo the Barber. He was like the Bold and the Beautiful. These are a lot of soap opera stars if you want to judge by the quality.
Then, of course, there's Teddy, who I'm going to forevermore refer to as the last American virgin.
Yeah, I was going to say, I couldn't remember what this dude was from.
That was his big claim to fame a few years earlier.
Yeah.
And then, of course...
I remember seeing that guy. I saw that at the damn theater.
It's a classic. It is a classic.
All right.
Then you got Crispin Glover playing Jimmy, whose girlfriend just dumped him and is concerned about
ladies. Crispin Glover looks so cute in this. Don't think about American Gods, Crispin Glover. This is a whole different Crispin Glover, although it looks like he's about 18. So,
if you don't know who Crispin Glover is, who are you? Why are you listening to this?
That's right. We love Crispin Glover. I even saw Willard.
Oh God, I saw Willard as well. The remake with Crispin Glover.
I've seen them both.
He more famously was known as George McFly from Back to the Future. Then there's also a couple other randos. There's Paul, who drives the car, wears baseball caps, and there's Sarah, who's the virgin, which means she behaves like a normal person during the course of this movie. She's not jumping naked into the lake every 5 seconds.
Man, you're a deep dive in this. I just called them collectively the naked teenagers. They really don't even need to have names because they're not around long enough for you to give a damn.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
Except for Trish. Trish and Corey, that's all you need to know.
Trish and Tommy. Corey. Are we calling him by his real name?
I get confused.
Only one Corey. Oh, this took a dark turn. Along the way, the horny teenagers meet Bizarro twins who just show up out of nowhere riding their bikes. They previously had said that I didn't think anybody lived this deep in the forest, referring to Tommy and Trish and their mom. Meanwhile, here are the Doublemint twins, the Double Trouble girls, just showing up on their bikes out of nowhere. They immediately are like, let's all jump naked into the swamp.
So like, we're swamp women too. Let's all be naked.
This is not a movie to watch with your children. Let me just stop you.
It's so ridiculous because teenagers, especially females, are super. I mean, I taught sex ed to high school kids. Yep. Yeah, sure, they may want to do it, but they're certainly not going to discuss it. And girls are certainly not going to get naked in front of other girls.
It's nonstop. At one point,
there's
Sarah's
a lot of body hatred and shame. It's some man's fantasy of what high school should have been.
Yes, I don't disagree. At one point, Sarah's like, "Sam, you have sex with everybody." She's like, "Yeah, pretty much." And it's like, really?
Oh my God! Is she Eileen Warnow? So they giving her cigarettes just for a role in the forest? Oh my God!
That's very upsetting. So, anywho, meanwhile, the horny teens are driving their Jeep Wagoner or whatever through the forest path, and there's a crazy hippie hitchhiker who shows up out of the blue. She's holding up a sign that says "Canada and Love." What? What are you talking about? They happily decide not to pull over and pick her up. And she turns the sign around and it says F you on the back. Like she's ready. She's evidently on this deserted forest path. She's been passed up a few times already. I was going to say,
she's not new to rejection at that point. And sadly for her, she did not get picked up because what happened next was unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. She has no lines. Not a one. So she may be mute. It's hard to say. She sits down and eats a banana.
Makes it even sadder. Oh yeah, the banana thing. That was bizarre.
It was awful. They zoom in on her eating a banana in a really gross, stomach churning way, and then promptly Jason appears behind her, kills her, stabs her through the throat with some kind of sharp thing.
As she's dying, she squeezes the banana like, I don't know. Is this supposed to be? It pops out of the peel and flops over. It was very disgusting.
It was
unnecessary.
Totally. She appears for 3 minutes in this movie. Hey, I'm a hitchhiker. Oh, I'm dead. That was what she brought to the table. Thank you, crazy old hippie.
Is it someone's relative? When this nonsense appears, I'm always wondering, did your Aunt Tilly always wanted to be in a movie? Is that why we threw her in there? What's this about?
Well, one thing, if you're paying attention, is the kids drive by.
I'm not guaranteeing that I was paying attention.
Well, hopefully somebody is. There is the headstone of Pamela Voorhees, literally by the side of the road. What kind of graveyard is it where it's like literally, oh, I'm jogging on the curb in the forest. Oh, I'm about to trip over this headstone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well.
It's
That's
ridiculous.
how they do it.
That's how it's like burying your pet. You just kind of pull over on the first sandy part of the road, except it's someone's mother.
Yeah, pretty much. Just, oh, Lord.
There's all kinds of nonsense.
All kinds of nonsense. So they all decide to go skinny dipping. Again, they all walk to the lake.
It's Porky's. It's Porky's,
right.
but not as. How about this? But not as good as Porky's.
Porky's is a classic. Porky's is a classic.
Oh my God. Porky's is pornography.
Tomato. I don't know what you're talking about. So they go to the lake. Okay, the Doublemint twins are there as well, and they're swimming already in the lake. And they're like, "Hey, come in. The water's great." And Last American Virgin goes like, "Oh, well, we don't have any suits. Then why are you going to the lake?
Yeah, what were you doing?
What was you fishing? Something exactly. Let's do some macrame."
Is this a 4-H project? Are you the designated lifeguard? Well, why are you here?
So they all promptly get naked and jump in the water. Paul is still wearing his baseball cap, though. Okay, he's like Burt Reynolds in Smokey the Bandit. The hat never comes off.
Oh God!
You're leaving the hat on, even when he's swinging on a rope, naked as a jaybird, smashes into the water. Right, swings in. I got to tell you, male anatomy. There's a certain part of your anatomy that slam into that water at that speed. Not something you're looking forward to. Meanwhile, Sarah is sitting on the pier by herself, fully clothed, reading the Bible. I don't know what she's doing.
Lord.
But she's angry at Samantha because Samantha's like, come on, Sarah.
Come on,
get
Sarah.
in the water.
Everybody's nude in the water. Come on.
Come on down. And eventually she drags poor Sarah into the water fully clothed. Good friends. Who's
the one who dies on the boat?
Her name is Judy Aronson, and she's the one from Weird Science. She plays Sam.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
So we'll talk.
Because that scene alone made no damn sense otherwise. This is literally, it's like when our brothers made a movie with a bunch of their friends, and we didn't have time for script editing or any editing or story.
And about the same amount of nudity. So very upset. So meanwhile, Corey Feldman and his sister Trish also are going to the lake spontaneously, but of course they see everyone naked. And Corey Feldman is about 11 at this stage of the game.
He's thrilled with the free porno out the window.
Right. There's a lot of those scenes where he's like watching, ooh, what's going on? Their car breaks down, and Trish goes, "Hey, Tommy, will you look under the hood and fix the car?" So 11-year-old Corey Feldman.
Hey, it makes sense. If Jason Voorhees is 9 and then 58, maybe Corey Feldman has all the knowledge of time somehow slammed into his head, and now he's a secret genius.
It's entirely possible. He goes under there and he's like, I just need a screwdriver. Could be the solenoid.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
The 11-year-old knows what a solenoid is.
Exactly. Evidently, this one does.
Is this young Sheldon? This is pre-young Sheldon?
This is pretty much young Sheldon. He's unable to fix the car, but then a strapping hiker.
Oh, my God. I'm going to go yell at my 25-year-old. Do you think he knows how to fix my car?
Good luck.
Negative.
A strapping hiker shows up, and he's able to help them fix the car somehow. He's a mechanic as well. That
That's
is
nice that
Rob.
so many people are mechanics in the forest.
Right. Rob asks a lot of questions to Trish and Tommy. Hey, are there a bunch of kids out here in the forest? Have you seen anything? Have you heard anything? Asking all sorts of questions. Rob, we find out, his sister had been murdered in the second movie. And now he is out to get Jason.
I missed that part. I really thought it was going to be like an American Horror Story this season where you have not one, but two serial killers.
Well, I will say this about the movie. Certain Friday the 13th movies are very obvious who the killer is, right? You see Jason with his mask. He's handling his biz. He's chasing
Freddy
people.
Krueger, you know it's not the UPS guy.
That's exactly right. This movie, even though we know Jason is woken up, they don't show really his face at all until towards the end of the movie. They don't show you the mask. They don't show you anything.
It's just body.
It's just his body. Sneaking up, you see his hands or things like that. So I don't know if they were trying to suggest maybe it was this dude, Rob.
Maybe they were, because they also give Rob a machete.
Right. Interestingly enough, he had the machete because he had like a rifle and he had a machete, he had like a knife. Jason, in spite of there being a machete there, kills exactly 0 people with a machete in this movie.
Yeah.
Ironically.
He apparently could just pop your head like a grape. Ping!
Why not? That's all it takes. So Rob is there trying to track down Jason to get his revenge. And he's pulling out like newspaper clippings. Now, let me remind you, this movie takes place a day after Part 3, which takes place a day after Part 2.
His sister died 2 days ago, and he has all the newspaper clippings.
That is exactly right. That is basically, over the course of 5 days, Jason kills about 70 people.
You think that the National Guard would be out at some point?
Exactly. He does not skip a beat. He's like, I'm just going to keep murdering people. Anyway, so you're right. The scrapbook of 1 million clippings doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. And his sister is still warm.
Exactly.
Oh, sweet Jesus. So, anywho, the horny teenagers head on back to their party pad. They're listening to AC/DC or I don't know who the hell they're, some kind of crazy thrash metal.
It was some bullcrap music that they didn't have to pay royalties for.
That's exactly right. So Polly and Samantha, who are together, their boyfriend and girlfriend, are dancing and kind of smooching. Tina and Terry, the crazy twins, are kind of, I don't know, showing some interest in Ted and Jimmy, Last American Virgin and Crispin, right?
Yeah.
But then things, and Sarah and Doug kind of have a little flirtation going on there, evidently. But things go crazy because Ted's twin basically decides, I'm not interested in you anymore.
Yeah,
and
he's
ditches
a freak.
him.
They're literally watching some 1910 peep show videos, and he's laughing like he's on I don't know, peyote or something. He's laughing hysterically like he's some maniac at something that's not even funny. It'd be interesting to look at. But he's laughing like a maniac, so I don't know what drugs he's on. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that people are walking away.
Well, that's later.
I'd rather walk home in the rain with a serial killer outside than spend another minute listening to you giggle like a freak with holding a teddy bear.
Well, that wasn't until both the twins basically told him to take a hike that he's like, I'm just going to pull out the porn. Hope that's cool with everybody. I know we're in the middle of a party. I'm going to set up the projector and just start watching all the porn.
No girls like porn, so here we go.
He's like, I'm not even going to excuse myself to a bedroom. I'm just going to handle my biz right here. Hope that's cool. So I don't even know which one. One of the twins bails on him and immediately goes after Polly right in front of Sam. So she's hitting on him. Samantha gets pissed off, and she's like, I'm going to go for a midnight swim in the freezing lake naked by myself.
Oh, yeah.
So she,
It's the most ridiculous. It was as ridiculous as the very first movie where she goes out in the middle of a black lake for safety. This
Yep.
makes no frickin' sense.
I'm so mad at you. I'm going to go skinny dip in the freezing lake in the middle of the night by myself.
I got to get naked again. Even though it's so cold, fog is raising up everywhere.
Yeah,
Oh my
we're going
God.
to talk about some of the issues that caused in the behind the scenes.
Oh my God.
So she's out there.
I wrote this note. Who takes a nap in a boat alone in the dark on a foggy night?
No one.
No
one
one.
in there. Good. So she goes, like you said, she strips down, jumps into the freezing water, swims out to like a raft that's just kind of floating out there for no reason.
Yeah, hang on. They rented a cabin, and not one of them brought a bathing suit?
A cabin on the lake.
A cabin on the lake.
Yeah, we didn't bring any bathing suits or
That's
change
like
the clothes.
going to the snow, but nobody brought a jacket. Come on.
Yeah. So she goes out and floats around, and she hears some noises, and she's like, "Hey, Paul, is that you?" "Oh, screw you, Paul." She said that about 4 times. "Screw you, Polly." And
Okay,
then
let me ask you
go
this
for it.
question. If
Go for
your
it.
wife is angry at you and walks out the door, would you assume she's in the middle of a lake?
that's pretty standard. I got to tell you.
The first
That
thing you
place-
do is you paddle out there, Becky, are you out here somewhere?
Basically, this is okay. This is just relationship 101. When your girlfriend or wife or significant other is a foot and a half away from you and a skanky twin makes her move, how about don't dance with the skanky twin? Tell her thanks, but no thanks. You know,
Get your
baby,
stank away from me.
at least wait till your wife or girlfriend leaves the room before you immediately start doing your thing. So, yeah, good times. So Jason pops up, stabs her through the raft and through her body. So she's dead.
But it doesn't apparently cause any air to leave the boat because it's still floating out there.
Yeah, the floating raft is evidently undamaged by a spear going through the bottom
But
of it.
that
So
goes
that's
into
good.
my future theory where Jason is clearly like a wizard or a witch from the stuff he's able to do later on.
That is correct. That is absolutely true. So Polly at this point comes to his senses. Hey, my girlfriend left an hour and a half ago. Maybe I should go check on her. So he goes out, knows that Samantha is basically a freak as well. And he's like, she must be skinny dipping in the water. So I'm going to get naked as well. And
Oh my God.
So he jumps into the frigid water, swims out to the raft, sees her body and bails. And this is the first of many occasions where somebody sees a loved one who's injured and does not go like, "Oh my God, let me help." Instead says, "I'm getting the hell out of here.
Exactly.
I'm outta here."
I'm not going to check your pulse. I'm not going to see if you're okay. It's just, and runs
Right.
off. Abandonment immediately.
Right. It's not, "Let me get the first aid kit." It's, "I'm out of here. Sorry, Sam. I'm out." So he makes it back. He swims back to the pier before promptly taking a a harpoon gun to the groin. Why is there a harpoon gun here?
In the lake.
Unclear. Exactly.
Is
this
it
is not-
Lake Sturgeon? Is that what they're hunting? Is this one of the Great Lakes they're on? I'm not sure.
Is this Captain Ahab's summer cottage? I mean, why is there a harpoon gun? Anyway, he takes that into the Zotch, and Paul is dead. That's the end of Paul. So now we know there are 2 twins,
I like
right?
that you're using Zotch. I haven't heard that in a long time.
That's a keeper. It's coming back. So we've got the 2 twins. Up to this point, the twins have been identical in all ways: personality, disposition, everything. Like totally interchangeable, right?
Doesn't
At
matter
this
which
point-
is which.
Doesn't matter. But at this point, they converge. Because you have the slutty twin is now like, "Well, Paul left. I've already had my time with Last American Virgin. Now I got to have some Crispin."
Yeah.
So she makes a beeline to Crispin and starts putting the moves on him. Meanwhile, the more demure twin, I'm bringing that word back, is like, she's like, "Maybe, can we leave? What do you think? Should we hit the brick?" She's like, "Oh, no." And within 5 seconds, she takes Crispin upstairs. The skanky twin takes Crispin upstairs to get to business. Just gets to business, which is, again, bizarre and peculiar. Earlier, I guess he wooed the twins with his bizarre dancing, his bizarre spastic dance moves.
Crispin Glover. God bless Crispin Glover.
Evidently, those dance moves were actually his real moves. And they were so bizarre that the filmmakers said, we got to keep this in. This is so... It is literally like, I don't know, it's some kind of combination between like kung fu or a seizure. It's hard to know what is happening.
It's very McFly. I do feel like I have a deep connection with Crispin Glover. I believe we could pull out some of these dance moves together.
All because of this movie. All because of this movie.
That's right. My eyes are open to Crispin Glover now.
That's all it takes.
William, Crispin Glover may be your new father.
So they go upstairs, get to business. The twin, Teddy, tries to throw a shot at the other twin. She gives him the heave-ho. She promptly goes up and says, "Hey, Twinny, we should leave now." And she's like, "You can leave if you want."
Party pooper.
Meanwhile, it's a downpour, by the way. We didn't even mention that. The freezing night is now a total rainstorm.
Yeah, it's global warming. It's Donald Trump. Yeah, it's the whole magoo.
It's the whole magoots. So Demure Twin leaves the house, gets on her bicycle, but she's killed by Jason, who has a spear of some sort, a javelin. I don't know what it is.
This is probably the best shot in the whole thing. She steps out the door to get on her bike in the hurricane, because that's still better than 1 minute longer with the last American Virgin. And you just see the shadow of her getting killed before you see the real graphic part. And I was like, wow, that's a kind of a good shot. Then you saw the more gory one. I was like, ah.
My favorite thing is, like, as she's about to get on her bike, she yells at the window, "Slut!"
Yeah, slut!
So she gets impaled on the wall eventually by Jason. And then it's, again, smash cut to now. Last American Virgin, as you said, is watching the 400-year-old stag films.
It's like an endless loop. These things were like less than 30 seconds, I think, originally. Yep. It's just an endless loop of old-timey porn.
He's smoking a J, watching porn, laughing hysterically.
I think there's PCP in his J, quite frankly. The way it was old Blue Velvet the way he was laughing.
Oh, of that there could be no doubt. Then we got Doug and Sarah are sitting on the couch behind. Sarah, who again is our virginal girl, finally decides, like, "Hey, Doug, let's go upstairs and consummate our relationship as well." So they go upstairs. At one point, she's like, "Nighty-night, teddy bear," to the last American Virgin. Because that's his move. He, like, has a teddy bear that he carries with him. And he goes, "Hey."
Girls love that.
They love that. And he says, "Hey, want to give teddy bear a kiss?" And needless to say, it did not go over too well, sadly.
This is why you're reflect. This is why you're by yourself.
This is sad but true. Now, what's interesting is at this point I realized this is really the first time that the Teddies and the Jimmies had really associated with the other teenagers. They were in the same room, but they never had a conversation. It was always Teddy and Jimmy kind of off by themselves, having weird conversations about Jimmy's virility. You know what I mean? It was
these are just fodder. So they can come up with 30 different ways for Jason to kill people. They serve no purpose other than that.
That is correct. So they go upstairs to do their business in the shower. It's a classy move.
With a body double.
I heard about that. That's true. But anyway, so Jimmy and Skanky Twin finish up their business, and she promptly tells him, "You know what? You really are. You're not bad in the sack after all.
You're my new boyfriend. I love you."
She says, "Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back." He promptly gets up, goes downstairs, and pulls some champagne out of the fridge. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to celebrate this." Bottle of wine.
She says, "Oh no, I'm getting the two couples confused. You're right. That's
right.
Kristen."
That's Crispin. So he's calling to Ted, who's in some kind of drug stupor watching porn. Hey, Ted, where's the corkscrew?
There's
Ted!
a corkscrew!
Yeah, he promptly takes a corkscrew in the hand from Jason, and then a meat cleaver to the forehead. So that's the end of old sad Crispin.
Peace
Pour
out,
one out.
Chris. R.I.P. R.I.P.
R.I.P. So Slutty Twin looks out the window and notices that her twin sister's bike is still out there. She's like, that's weird. And then Jason promptly reaches through the window. Oh, this is the second floor now.
Yeah.
Reaches through the window from the outside and just throws her out the window.
Yeah. So
She goes hurtling. Crash. So that's the end of all those twins, basically. So now, after Peter Barton and Sarah finish their tryst, Sarah goes off to blow dry her hair, while Doug finishes up his shower. He hears a noise. He first thinks it's Sarah, ready to go for round two. Then he thinks it's his buddy Paulie. For some reason,
he's ready for round one.
He says something like, "Hey, I dropped the soap, old buddy, old pal." Something like that. Very upsetting.
And first of all, once again, another error because teenagers don't bathe. So, at least not the boys. So, the fact that they're still in the shower is clearly a mistake.
Yep. Jason smashes through the glass and crushes his head.
Oh, yeah,
like
that was
a grape.
nasty. Pop. Yeah. It was just like...
Yeah, it was a spoiled cantaloupe.
Yeah.
So that's the end of old Doug. Sarah's like, oh, I'm still in here blow drying my hair. And then Last American Virgin, still watching porn, screams, people being murdered about him. He's oblivious. He finally gets up to, I don't know, get a closer look at the porn.
Yeah.
And Jason stabs him in the back of the head with a butcher knife through the screen. So there goes old Last American Virgin, who shall remain that way, evidently.
Yeah, apparently so, but that's his fault. Natural selection.
Natural selection. Sarah finally turns off the hairdryer and goes and finds the Doug's corpse in the bathroom. She's upset. She runs downstairs, tries to open the door. A fire axe goes through the door, through her, right bullseye right in the middle of the chest. That's the end of Sarah. So all the horny teenagers are no longer with us.
That's
It's a very sad situation. They were, like you said, they were basically just the cannon fodder at this stage of the game.
You don't know anything about him. You don't give a damn.
It's really not that important. Meanwhile, at the neighbor's house, this is Tommy, Trish, and single mom, whose name
we don't care. There we go.
It's not important. Single mom is she's like out in the rain looking around for, I don't know what. Tommy, where are you at? Gordon the dog is outside, and she does one of those things where she kind of like, I wonder what's going on, turns around, oh no!
Yeah.
So she's...
And basically just vanishes.
You never see her again. She does not come back. I mean, the assumption, of course, is she's dead, which would probably be a pretty solid assumption, but you never like stumble over her corpse anywhere.
No.
Evidently, there was like a deleted scene where they were supposed to find her body, and it was very emotional, but they just clipped that. They're like, who cares?
It was there's
important.
Nothing emotional in this entire movie.
Not important. So at this point, Rob, the hiker on a mission, realizes that, Jason's out there, because his tent that he set up in the forest was ramshackled, and his rifle was broken. So snapped in two. So now he does not have a rifle anymore.
Why would Jason just take the gun? Why would he go to the trouble of breaking it and putting it back into the tent?
Jason only uses simple tools. Okay, there's no power drills. There's no chainsaws. It's all simple chopping and stabbing weapons for Jason. So there you go. He's a Luddite. I don't know. I can't explain it.
All right, whatever.
So Rob and Trish go next door just to check in on everything. And of course, there's 10,000 bodies like as far as the eye can see. Very upsetting. There's a bizarre scene where Rob goes down into the basement He's like, I'm going to look down here. You stay up there, I guess. So she wanders around and finds the body. She goes, oh, Jason's here. Rob runs up the stairs. He's like, oh, damn, I forgot my knife. Goes back down into the basement. And then, of course, there's Jason. He pops up, takes a gardening claw of some sort, and promptly murders Rob as Rob goes, oh, he's killing me. He's killing me. Run, Trish. He's killing me.
I don't
I'm
understand
dying.
this. It made no logical sense. If someone is literally stabbing you in the chest, you can't just keep screaming, they're killing me. Because, oh my God, they practically had sawed him in half and he's still yelling. Oh my God.
He's killing me. Newsflash. So she kind of runs off, runs around the house, and then comes back to the basement again.
Where all the bodies have been rearranged. Where all the bodies have been rearranged.
It's all very strange. So, sweet Lord.
Did I jump ahead? Because that's where I think Jason is a witch. Because while Jason's chasing her, he must be simultaneously hanging like Crispin Glover over the door and arranging these people all around the house.
And that is correct. And for some reason, now everybody is nailed to the wall with railroad spikes.
While simultaneously, he was in the basement.
Yes.
So there must be maybe the little boy Jason is also alive in this universe. It is good for the hammer. If Corey Feldman can fix the solenoid, then surprise baby Jason can clearly use railroad ties and nail people up.
If I wanted to right now, I'd have a hard time finding a bunch of railroad spikes. I gotta admit, it would not be an easy thing to have, and yet he just has an unlimited supply. I don't know if he's who is the guy who beat the steam shovel? John Henry.
John Henry. I was thinking he was like those shot girls at the bars where he has what do they call it, a bandolier, and it's just full of railroad spikes.
Full of railroad spikes. Pretty much. They're good for all occasions.
You never know. Be prepared. He obviously was a scout before, maybe or after they fished him out of the lake.
Eventually Trish runs back to her own house. Tommy's there. What's going on? She closes the door, proceeds to nail the door shut. Meanwhile, on either side of the door are these huge picture windows. Picture windows that she does lock them. She locks them. I'm locking up the picture windows.
Now,
but I kept thinking to myself, yes,
Kevin,
lay it on me.
We both are very familiar with the zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
And the first thing you would like to do to keep creatures or other humans from coming through is probably to board up the freaking glass. You don't want sliding glass doors.
Yeah.
What's the point of locking the door when the creature who wants to kill you, who is unstoppable, could just clearly sail right on through?
Exactly. I mean, you could see this was not a good plan. First of all, why didn't they just drive away?
Oh, wow.
There you go. Good times.
Good call.
There it is. Now, maybe the solenoid was still acting up. Is that a possibility? I don't know.
Well, don't they have 12 cars to choose from now?
Take your pick, right? So
Jason doesn't know how to drive, at least not in this one. Maybe in the next one he'll also be a truck driver. But so they have a house full of cars next door.
Hey, if push comes to shove, grab one of the twinsies' bikes. They don't need it anymore either.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. So anywho, Jason promptly smashes through the door. Boom, through the door.
Oh my God.
Doesn't even bother. Not before he throws Rob's corpse through the window with yet another railroad spike through his neck. So good times.
Oh,
Trish,
this is just so ridiculous because it's literally, It was like high school stagecraft where everything's made out of balsam wood. So it's everything literally, whole walls literally weigh 1 pound as they probably float to the floor after he crashes through. It was pretty hinky dinky.
Well, but it goes to show Jason is a superhuman figure. He goes through the door. Yeah. He doesn't unlock the door. He doesn't knock the hinges off. The door basically explodes because he goes through it with all of his force. So this is not a good situation. Tommy and Trish run upstairs, try to hide in his room. and they put like a bookcase in front of the door. Not a great plan.
And never quite all the way over, too. There's always like some little flaw. Or how about climb out the damn window?
Do some damn thing. Trish eventually takes a TV and smashes it on top of Jason's head.
Oh, my friend, I don't believe that was a TV. I believe that was a monitor to a Commodore 64, I think.
It was a, what was it, TRS-80? One of those Radio Shack
TRS,
numbers?
Yeah. No, I think it was a Commodore, but I could be wrong.
It was a monitor of some sort.
From
Smashes
an
him
old-timey computer.
before there were real computers, basically. the old ghetto computers. Anyway, they get by Jason. But, of course, Jason pops back up 5 seconds later, chases Trish around. At this point, our young Tommy Jarvis...
Oh,
he
God.
decides.
Now we're going to go. This is where we really, really make a left turn.
He had looked at the clippings of Rob, and there's kind of a drawing of what Jason looked like in the first movie when he was the crazy little mutant kid that jumped out with some seaweed on his head like Sigmund the Sea Monster.
I still stand by. He looked like he was roasted on a spit.
He was roasted on a spit. Then he decides, I'm going to make myself look like that. He starts cutting his hair. And earlier in the movie, there's some foreshadowing. His mom says, hey, Tommy, you need to get a haircut. Bum, bum, bum.
So deep.
See? It's a callback. So he cuts off all his hair to look like a crazy mutant. Jason's about to kill her, right?
Right.
I think she has the machete.
She gave him a couple good whacks. And
she gave him a couple good whacks.
Finger.
Oh, that was gross. He's reaching for her. She takes the machete and hits him between his like ring finger and his middle finger, and just chops halfway through his hand.
Every time
Very
I chop
upsetting.
onions, I'm waiting. I just know that's going to happen to me one day.
Oh, it's coming. Make no mistake. And then little Tommy pops up and says, Jason, remember me? Remember? Do you remember? I don't know what his plan was.
Me? What, like, remember what? This was 4 days ago.
Remember?
4 days and 5 years ago.
When I look just like you? So Jason is momentarily kind of confused,
what was
I guess.
Jason supposed to be thinking? I mean, I was momentarily confused, and I'm not even Jason. What was he supposed to think? Look, there's me from a long time ago. What?
Right. He's all like, what in the hell is that?
Yeah,
if Jason could speak.
Jason was confused.
So at this point, Trish grabs the machete and chops with it and it just knocks his mask off, revealing the jacked up mutant Jason face.
Yeah, it's a Little Hills of Eyes now.
Little Hills have eyes. He starts moving on her. Little Tommy picks up the machete and whacks him right upside the head, chops him like literally halfway through his skull.
Oh, yeah.
Like sideways.
Nasty.
That was a rough scene. Gross.
Oh, no,
Jason
then he falls down, and the head
whoa.
slowly slides down through the machete. It was very disgusting.
It was yucky. It was yucky to say the least.
Yes.
Tommy runs up, gives Trisha. They're giving hugs. Oh, Tommy. Tommy sees a little twitch of the fingers from Jason. He flips out, grabs the machete, starts chopping. Die! Tommy!
Tommy did the right thing. It needs
can't.
to be like your next, where you just need to go, so this ain't coming back.
Right. Handle your biz.
Burn it and hang it up where it can't escape. Hang it off a cliff. I don't know. Send pieces to the four corners of the universe.
So smash cut to a hospital room. Trish is in her bed. She's being interviewed, I guess. The doctor's there. The deputy sheriff is there. I don't know. Some other people are there. And she's like, can I see Tommy? And Tommy walks in with his crazy bald head. She hugs him again. Everything's cool. But then
he gives the
reveal.
the little reveal, like he looks over his shoulder, concerned. I don't even know what that was supposed to mean. Like he's possessed, or like my sister's a bitch because I saved her life. And now she's like, oh, he was too crazy killing Jason. It's ridiculous.
A little column A, a little column B. I think we're supposed to think like he's having kind of a PTSD, but it's kind of thrown him over the edge so that now he is a psycho. I think it's what we're supposed to take from it.
I would be concerned if he's killed the babysitter, but just beating the crap out of Jason to make sure he ain't coming back. I wouldn't necessarily be talking to every doctor going, but you don't understand.
Well, it's little old Corey Feldman, so we're all a little concerned. I mean, clearly things didn't turn out great for him, so who knows? Maybe this was the start.
Yeah, obviously he wasn't possessed because he's not in number 5.
Let me tell you a story.
Come and listen to the story about Nimjin.
Tommy Jarvis is the protagonist of the next 2 Jason movies.
But it's not Corey.
But Corey is in the next movie as a flashback. As a flashback. So the part 5, A New Beginning, because there was no way this was going to be the final chapter. Tommy Jarvis is now an adult, obviously played by a different actor, but there is kind of a flashback, like he's remembering being a child, I guess. He's now an adult, but he's kind of nuts. He's like, he goes to like a kind of a halfway house farm with a bunch of other crazy rejects, basically. And then the killings start again. So that's a thing. It's like, oh, is he the killer? Is Jason back? What's happening? So
oh Lord, I'd move to the beach. Jason only lives in the forest.
And then in part 6, Jason Lives.
Oh God.
Tommy Jarvis is back, played by another actor. So three different actors in 3 different movies.
Is it the other Corey?
And it's this time it's Corey Haim. So no, it's not. So and now he's out to finish Jason for good, basically. So there you have it.
This is ridiculousness.
This is what we call Shakespeare. This is a classic.
This is not a classic. I read a very amusing thing about by the time you get to 5, they stop telling the actors who are auditioning what the movie is for.
Right.
Because they don't want to be in it. So until they've signed, they don't tell them the title of the movie.
Well, what's funny is on at least one occasion, a girl auditioned for 2, like she was cast in part 5 and auditioned for part 6, not realizing it was the same series. And halfway through the audition, she said, "Is this a Friday the 13th movie? I was in 5." And they're like, yeah, you're not hired. Pack your bags.
Shut your mouth. No one even noticed.
Well, what's interesting, since we're now in...
now that you're a 23-year-old girl, you could also be the next Jason.
Pretty much. Any other thoughts before we move on to behind the scenes?
Let's see here. I also read just like people who didn't want to be in a damn movie. Like Peter Barton literally had to be convinced because he didn't want anything to do with this genre.
Well, his co-star on The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Did you ever see this thing?
I vaguely remembered. Louis Gossett Jr. was in it. He was some kind of Peter Barton was some kind of alien or something, kind of a Superman. Like he's a, I don't know.
It starts to sound a little familiar, but
a little familiar. His co-star Amy Steele was the final girl in part 2. So she convinced him, even though she didn't want to come back and do part 3.
Yeah.
For some reason, she's convincing, yay, sign up. Why not? It'll be the last one. It'll be good for a few bones, right? So little did we know.
I just have a couple of quotes. That's about it. That's all I have.
Well, let's jump right into this. As we know, they made the original 8 Friday the 13th movies over the course of the 80s.
You will not make me review all 8 of these. I've already got 2 down.
2 down. The producer of this movie was, let me find his name, Frank Mancuso Jr., and he started to realize that the kind of slasher craze was starting to die down. But he also realized that he was producing these movies, and these movies were making a ton of money.
They were making a ton. This cost like 1.8. It made like 32.
But he didn't get any respect. Like, people were still giving him crap about being affiliated with these movies. So he was like, I'm done with this.
I'm an artist.
He said, I'm done with this. This can be the final chapter. Then, of course, not the final chapter. Yeah. You've got, because the previous, we had Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th in 3D, then the final chapter, then A New Beginning, then Jason Lives, then The New Blood, then Jason Takes Manhattan. And at that point, it was basically, the rock that they were trying to squeeze the blood out of was finally, that was it. That was the last one that was kind of like...
So far.
So then, years later, change of ownership, New Line purchased the rights to the Jason character, but ironically, not the rights to the Friday the 13th name. Oh. So in the early 90s, they made Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday, which is a totally bizarre movie, which seems to just do its own bizarro thing. Like, one of the actresses in it is Erin Gray, who you might remember.
Yes, from Buck Rogers.
From Buck Rogers and Silver Spoons. So she comes back in the early 90s.
Do you think I was watching Silver Spoons? I was too cool.
Silver Spoons.
I was way too cool for that. Oh, my God.
With Ricky Schroeder.
Yeah.
Good times. Then they took off a little more time, and then they made Jason X, because it was the 10th one. And that's Jason in space.
Oh, God.
Okay. In the future. Good times. Then they made Freddy versus Jason. A few years after that.
How many are there? It still goes on?
Still goes on. Then a few years after that, they go like, well, we're going to do kind of a soft reboot where it's not exactly like, we're not starting, Spider-Man's not getting bit by the spider again. It's kind of a new movie for a new generation, right?
Oh, my God.
That was just called Friday the 13th. And to this date, that's the last Friday the 13th movie. Although, rumor has it, LeBron James wants to produce a new round of Friday the 13th movies. Oh. So there you have it. So get ready.
This is what happens
Let the good
when
times
you have
roll.
money and no sense.
Other trivia that I thought was interesting. You mentioned this earlier. The stuntman who played Jason, whose name is Ted White. You would remember this guy because he also played the evil cowboy in the beginning of Romancing the Stone. If you remember Romancing the Stone, there's that scene where
is that the one with Richard Chamberlain or the one with Michael Douglas?
Michael Douglas.
Romancing the Bone.
Romancing the Bone. In the opening of that movie, it's kind of a cowboy thing because it's kind of like they're telling us about Kathleen Turner's. Anyway, he's the evil cowboy.
Indiana Jones. I could not tolerate it.
No.
I spit him on
Romance. No. The Richard Chamberlain stuff is fake Indiana Jones. Romancing the Stone is a classic film. We could talk about that another time, though.
That's anyway, a different podcast.
He was actually, because again, he's 58. So he was like the stunt double for like John Wayne back in like the 50s and things like that. Like he was a veteran stunt man. And he kind of had issues with the director.
I did read that.
We were talking about how there's that scene, the spontaneous, unnecessary skinny dipping scene in The Moonlight, where Judy Aronson has to literally be in this freezing water naked for extended periods of time. And the director would not let her get out between takes. And Jason, the character who played the mass murderer, was like literally about to beat up the director. He's like, you need to get her out of there, and you need to get her a towel. You need to get her a robe, something. She's going to freeze. And eventually she did get like hypothermia because she's in that water for so long. She started to cry while they were filming it, and that's what pissed off Jason. So there you go. Jason with the
Well,
hard
I think there's always a conflict, too, between like stunt people because they think they're the hard workers versus the other side of the crew.
Absolutely. He also said that Corey Feldman was kind of a little pain in the butt.
I'm sure he
was.
A
little crazy kid who, he was having his own issues with the director because the director wasn't doing things right. And there's a scene where Corey Feldman is in front of like a window, and Jason is supposed to smash through the window and grab the kid.
Right.
And Ted White, who was pissed off at Corey Feldman because he thought he was a pain, like they said action, and he intentionally waited like an extra couple of seconds. So the point where Corey Feldman thought that, oh, something's wrong. Like, oh, I guess the take's ruined. We're not doing this. And that's when he went to make sure to get that extra terrifying moment to take out his frustrations on this poor 11-year-old Corey Feldman. It was all downhill from there.
That's what broke him. That was it. Make a pinpoint the moment right there.
This installment of the series also, as you said, contained by far the most nudity and the most gore of any of the movies up to this point.
It was very violent, but mostly just nudity for the sake of nudity. Look what we can do.
What's wrong with that? I don't see any issues with that.
I assume most of the people watching this movie are boys.
That is true. Now, we talked about how Rob came back to avenge his sister's death. If you've seen part 2, I had to look this up because I wasn't sure which of the girls who was killed in part 2 was supposed to be his sister. There's this young teenage couple, because there's always got to be one that just can't keep their hands off each other. They're all over each other. And there's a scene where they're getting to business in a bed, and Jason comes up behind them and skewers them both with a spear right through them. I don't know why there's so many spears in this movie. Like, can you go buy a spear?
It makes no damn sense between harpoons and spears, machetes, all of this. It makes no damn sense.
So the girl who was at the bottom of the love shack was his sister, evidently. So there you have it. Good times had by all.
I have a couple of things about Kimberly Beck, who plays Trish.
Trish, go for it.
All right. Well, first I have a quote from her. What are you trying to do? Kill me? But now I forgot to put any kind of context around that. The other thing is, I don't know who she was saying it to, what part of the movie she said it, but I haven't written down here. The other thing about Kimberly Beck is she was in one of my favorite movies. Do you know what it is?
Friday the 13th, the final chapter?
That is incorrect. It's also one of our mother's favorite movies. Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Oh.
She played one of the North kids. For those who don't know, we're from a tremendously large Catholic family. And so my mother would force us to watch any kind of movie about either tall people or people with large families. So Kimberly Beck was in Yours, Mine, and Ours and played one of these families who lived in the Bay Area, where she had the mom had like 10 kids, and she married a guy with like 9 kids. True story.
That's a lot.
A true story. And she was also in Roller Boogie. She was in real movies, but the only ones I cared about were Roller Boogie and Yours, Mine, and Ours.
This is good times.
Lucille Ball. That's a Lucille Ball movie.
Henry Fonda?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm here. I watch some movies sometimes.
Yeah, don't watch the remake.
Serial killers.
But that's all I have, because most of my notes are complaints, because I found it A, boring, B, nonsensical, and I didn't find it really that interesting. I know this is a classic and you feel betrayed and lied to, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is.
Okay. I will say this. There's a soft spot in my heart for the first 6 of these movies.
First 6 of the movies.
For this first 6.
That your heart is so soft. It's as soft as the pumpkin that's been sitting outside for a month. That's how soft it is. There's a mealyworm in the middle of it.
Just like old Doug's head when he got squished against the... Anyway, it's like I really enjoy these movies. They're ridiculous. They are totally ridiculous. I'm not going to dispute that at all. there's something about the idea of, they were supposed to be at like a camp, right? Camp Crystal Lake.
Right.
Really, that's only like the first 2 movies. After that, it's just like, wherever. Maybe we're at a camp. Maybe we're at a lake. Maybe there's not a lake.
Maybe it's just a pine tree. He's attracted to pine trees. Well, maybe not even a pine tree. Maybe it's just a pine tree car deodorizer. Maybe that's all you need. And then you can summon him.
Pretty much. I just find that I enjoy these movies a lot more than I enjoyed the Halloween movies. I thought the first Halloween was really good. But aside from that, I think
I'm not really
Friday
sure.
the 13th.
I'm not sure there's a difference between the two.
Well, there's definitely not a difference in the sense that they're both kind of silent, giant, hulking characters that just kill seemingly indiscriminately.
Non-speaking, no personality, just they're like sharks. They're just sharks,
right?
And you're a chum in the water. That's all it is.
That's exactly
Freddy
right.
Krueger has personality and pizzazz.
Panache.
I'm a Krueger. If you're going to talk about these movies, I'm a Krueger fan.
I guess what it comes down to is these movies are basically flagrant cash grabs. Like with the Halloween movies, they tried to give you kind of a reason. Why is he doing what he's doing? He's after his
Halloween
sister.
I like the first Halloween better than Friday the 13th.
This movie, there's no further explanation needed or required, where it's just like,
or offered.
If you happen to be, or offered, or even offered, if you happen to be in this area and Jason's there, you're dead meat.
There's
no, I didn't even know your mother. I want somebody to say that. I didn't even meet your mother. Why are you killing me?
With you? Yeah, it used to be, it was the slutty kids, and then it was just whatever. I'm just a mowing machine.
Basically, I don't know. I enjoy them. When they got to the New Blood, something was missing. And Jason Takes Manhattan is practically unwatchable.
Every time you say that, all I want to hear is Muppets Take Manhattan. Where's the Muppets versus Jason?
They should. They're both in Manhattan, evidently.
That's right. They both took it. They're fighting for the soul of New York City.
We're at an hour and 20 minutes. Any last thoughts?
God. We didn't talk this long about Rosemary's Baby, which I love more than anything else in the whole world.
In the whole world, no less.
No, I like Funyuns more than Rosemary's Baby. I'll take that back. But as far as horror movies, I'm like, I don't know how we got at 120. That's insane.
So you would not recommend? Is that what you're trying to say?
I will never watch this movie knowingly again. I mean, Bill Gates says, Aaron, all right, here's the deal, Aaron. I will buy everything on your crazy Amazon wish list that you've been adding to for 1,000 years. If you would just sit down and watch all these stupid movies again, and I'll say, all right, Bill, then I will. It will
only in those
only in that circumstance. There needs
not
to be
even for Crispin.
Oh,
not even for Crispin. Crispin, his siren call isn't reaching you right now.
With his magic dance.
With his magic dance. Watch it for the dance, if for no other reason. Sweet Jesus.
I guess the only reason you'd watch this is because Crispin Glover and Corey Feldman. But Corey Feldman, except for the end where he's dressed as Mini-Me Jason, that dear Jesus, can we re-edit this to make it better somehow?
Sadly, no, we cannot. So there you have it. Thank you for joining us.
Freeze. You gotta go do a screen capture of baby Corey and put it on our Facebook.
I'm sure I won't even have to do a screen capture. I can just Google it. Good times. It'll be my new my Twitter profile picture.
Oh, dear
young,
Jesus!
crazy.
Please do. Preferably while he's looking over the shoulder of his sister with the crazy look in his eye.
Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. You can email us at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die at Gmail. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., etc. Aaron, what is your Twitter account, please?
The Cult of Aaron. The Cult,
Cult of Aaron.
of Aaron with those little underscores between words.
So there you have it. Thank you for joining us, and be well.
Hasta la vista, baby.